All right. Thank you, Tanya, for coming. I'm happy to have Tanya Walker today, owner of Walker Law. And I think we're just going to get straight into it. So, Tanya, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into business?
Sure. Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to share my story with you today. I was born in Toronto. My parents are from Jamaica. They are immigrants, and I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a lawyer. As a child, I watched a show, The Cosby Show, and I'm dating myself, but I watched that show, and I really admire Claire Huxtable. She was a lawyer in the show, and so I decided from when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old that I would be a lawyer. And I don't think I really understood what it meant, but I just wanted to be her. And so I always knew that I wanted to be treated with respect and valued for my intellect. So when I attended McMaster University, obtained a degree in business, and then I went to Osgoode Hall Law School, and I graduated from school at law school in 2005. I was called to the bar in 2006, so I've been practicing for 14 years. I've had this firm for 10 years. So I started off practicing in Oshawa. I articled and summered there, and I decided to move to downtown Toronto just because as a commercial litigator, I thought there'd be more business cases in the city. And so I was really shocked when I moved downtown how I was treated. There are three whammies against me in this profession. One is that I'm Black, the second is I'm a woman, and the third is my parents didn't attend college. University. So
Mhm.
there are people who might treat you like you're a lower human being. Doesn't matter your race or your gender, just because your parents didn't do certain things, and that's not really your fault. But I was really shocked at how I was treated. So when I moved from one Bay Street firm to another Bay Street firm, and then I was assigned to work with a senior lawyer on a very complicated commercial matter. We were successful in that matter, and so he had heard about how I was treated. I didn't actually tell him. And then one day he said to me, Tanya, we have our own firm and we're thinking about gutting half the floor on Bay Street in the Simpsons Tower, which is above Eaton Center's Bay and
Mhm.
Queen. We would like you to think about joining us, just renting space to us. So I was terrified. I've never saw myself as a business owner. I always thought of myself as a partner. But my mom and my dad said for many years, you should have your own firm. You're involved in many boards. You're involved in the community. You're bringing
Mhm.
in work. You have your own client base, which is very unusual. Like as a summer student, I had my own client base. I had such a big client base that when I graduated from law school and returned back to that firm in Oshawa, they made me a non-equity partner. So
Oh, wow.
it was called Walk, like Walker was in the name of the firm. And
Wow.
I enjoyed playing golf. I did all those things that you're kind of expected to do to bring in business. And so my parents encouraged me. They said, you're not happy at these firms. You're not being treated well. You feel like a second class citizen. Why not open your own firm? You'll be okay. So then I told the senior lawyers, listen, there's nobody in my family even owns a business. I don't even know how to run a business. I will open my own firm and rent space from you on the condition that you continue to mentor me. So they said, fine. So I opened my own firm. 99% of the clients followed me when I
Wow.
opened my own firm. I was really surprised because most of my clients do not look like me or are my gender.
Mhm.
But I thought, okay, Tanny, you're doing something right, so just keep it up. And that firm, they continued to mentor me for another 5 years. And then we moved 5 years after that because we ran out of space. We just grew and grew and grew. Because when I opened the firm, it was just myself and an assistant part time. And now we have almost 10 people in our firm.
Wow. Wow. Wow, this is an amazing story. I didn't even know all of this. How you got started like this. And so this is amazing because even as a student, you had a large number of clients. You had a good portfolio of clients. And I love your story because one of the things, according to you, that triggered you to move, obviously with the support of your parents and the encouragement from your parents, is the fact that you were not treated well. And I think some of those triggers are some of the good reasons or good motivations to really, pursue your career, pursue your desire, and to be successful. So tell us a little bit about the first couple of years. I know getting into business is never easy. So how did you go through some of those bumps? I know you had a good start, you had client base, but I'm sure there were challenges.
Yes, there were challenges. So the first challenge was that my previous firm sued me. And so I
Oh,
was about 32 years old, and I had to take a $50,000 line of credit on my condominium to pay for legal fees because I thought I could represent myself. And I didn't realize how emotional and how draining it was. And it gave me a greater appreciation for what my clients go through. Because even with the bigger companies, we represent small, medium sized businesses, but also Fortune 500s like PayPal. We represent PayPal across Canada. There is a level of stress when you are relying on someone to advance your case. And so
mhm.
that's the benefit of it. But it was very hard going through that and thinking, oh, I might lose, and then I might lose my condominium, my reputation. I haven't really started, and I might lose my reputation if I lose against this firm. And it's really not fair for them to even sue me because I left because of the discrimination that had to deal with. So that was very, very hard.
Mm.
Other things that were hard were dealing with balancing wearing many hats because like I was very junior, so I was in my fourth year when I opened the firm, so I was still learning quite a bit about complex litigation, and then also have to learn about managing a business. Certain things never even occurred to me. Like I remember one day, that law firm that I shared space with, one of the partners came up to me and said, "Tanya, do you have life insurance?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, what's going to happen when you die?" I'm like, "I'm not going to die. I'm 32. I'll never die." And he's like, "No, you will die one of these days. And if you get life insurance now, it's cheaper than if you try to get it when you're 50 or 60." I was like, "Oh." So then I got these like insurance, and like I didn't even think about business interruption insurance, disability insurance. I was going to be always limber because I was
Yeah.
32. So that was a challenge in terms of learning all these things about business I didn't know. I'm grateful to McMaster University because that's what the school I attended for my business degree. So it gave me a certain acumen, but there was still so much more to learn. So I try to get more involved in mentorship programs. Celia, your partner is a graduate of one that
That's right.
I was in, VB Grow, which is amazing. But I try almost every year to get involved in different mentorship programs. So even like one of my mentors now from Accenture, he was assigned to me like 3 years ago, and it was only supposed to be for about a year. And we
Hmm.
just continued on, and we still meet, even though he's not even with Accenture anymore. So wearing that, balancing that hat between practicing law, sometimes dealing with discrimination in the courtroom where people might think I am the person charged with the crime when I don't even practice criminal law.
Hmm.
Where sometimes I attend court with my junior lawyer who might be a white male and they think I'm the junior. They just assume I'm the junior. Attending a client meeting with my junior, and then the client might say, "Well, who's that? Who's she?" And my junior will say, "Well, she's a walker." "Oh, I didn't think I didn't envision a walker to be her." And
Wow.
so and you have to kind of just smile and just take it in stride. Those are challenges that you have to deal with, and you just have to kind of be mentally prepared. And if it doesn't happen, that's great. But if it does, at least you could just say, "All right, it is what it is. Let me just move on."
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about risk. So you started this business when you were, I believe, in your fourth year,
Mhm.
even before you graduated. So
No, no,
that takes,
no. I started after I graduated when I was in my
okay.
fourth year of practice. I should say I was a lawyer for
Oh,
4
for your
years.
practice.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay, excellent. So tell us a little bit about risk, because one of the things we talked about last week during our training, and one of the things we know from experience is one of the biggest transitions you make is from moving from an employee to a business owner, because now you're leaving the certainty of a regular pay to this uncertainty, running a business that you're not sure where your first customer is going to come from or where your first paycheck is going to come from. So tell us a little bit about that thought process for you in terms of taking that risk and that leap of faith.
Well, I mean, the risk and that fear propels me to move forward because I'm terrified of failure, right? So because I'm terrified of failure, I work really hard, and I found that when I opened the firm, I had a different level of energy to work hard because it's my name on the letterhead. Like I hear, or my father's name, I guess, last name on the letterhead, but
Mhm.
or it's a different kind of energy that I have because of that huge risk that I'm taking. I take the client's files far, far more seriously now, especially because I was involved in litigation. and I try my hardest to minimize risk. So there's certain things like, marketing that we do, digital marketing. I'm a legal analyst on 4 national television stations, and I take every opportunity that's afforded to me so seriously. I always treat even unpaid work as if it is paid work because it's a huge risk. And I just like to minimize that risk. I'm kind of conservative that way. So I hope that it kind of answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. It does. Tell us a little bit about your approach to marketing because you seem to be everywhere, right? You are on TV, you attend events, you take marketing really, really seriously, and that says a lot about your brand. So tell us a little bit about our approach. How did you discover that, or why did you even think that was even necessary to promote your business?
Well, people, you can be the best lawyer or professional around, or best baker or cook, but if people don't know that you are around or you're breathing, you're not going to get the business, right? So we probably all know someone who's really good at their craft, but they're not succeeding as much as they should because people just don't know about them. So marketing is very important. But really, what opened my eyes to that was I was asked to present to a professional women's group while I was still practicing at my previous firm about branding. And I always see things as an opportunity. So when I was asked to present, I actually purchased 2 books on branding. One was really good. It was called Brand Like a Rock Star. And I realized how important marketing and branding is. And really, what do you want people to say behind your back? And so as a lawyer, what do you want the judge to say behind your back? What do you want your clients to say? What do you want your colleagues to say? And then whatever you want them to say behind your back, you have to show them why they should say that, right? So that's really where it came from, that branding presentation. And once I perfected that branding presentation, um, it was a few months later I perfected the branding presentation, and at that point I'd opened my own firm. So organizations that I served on the board with, such as Black Business Professional Association, I told them, I'm like, I have this amazing branding presentation. I've already presented it. I'd be happy to present it to your organization because I saw as a value, they could have that as a value add. You want people to pay their membership fees.
Mhm.
And if you deliver content that they believe is helpful, then they will continue to
That's right.
join on as members. So I think I presented on that topic maybe 7 times to different organizations in the span of a year. And I actually saw, because I really presented it more when I opened my firm, files and referrals start to come in. And then I
Wow.
realized the importance of branding. So even with this pandemic, what I do with people, it doesn't matter if it's an employee, best friend, my husband, I look at what are your strengths and I try and work with you based on your strengths. So one of our paralegals, she is very good with like social media. So when COVID hit, I sat with her and I said, we need help with digital marketing because we don't have lunches, dinners, or
Mhm.
conferences. Can you help us with the digital marketing? So she really took it upon herself, maybe spent 20, 30 hours studying on YouTube how to brand and how to do all these funky things with LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook. And so she's the one that actually posts every day. She sends the post to me the day before.
Mhm.
This is what I want to post tomorrow, and I edit it, and then she actually posts it, and she'll engage with people. And some people will think it's me, so she'll say, no, it's not Tanya. I'm Marley. I'm responsible for the digital marketing,
Yeah,
but she's very good at it, and we track it. So it's important when you market, you have to track it to see if it's working.
it's true.
So every week she sends to me how many new Instagram followers we have, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. It's really, I can see why people do it as a full-time job because it's a lot of work.
That's true.
But it's very important for people to know who you are. So you want to come first to mind when someone has a dispute over money. You want them to say, okay, call Walker Law, because I seen them on in social media the other day, but someone else, I've seen the Google reviews. They have 25 Google reviews. They're all 5 star. They have LinkedIn reviews. They're all 5 star. And it just adds to our credibility and gives people a reason to want to hire us. So I think that's very important to have.
That's true. That's true. And I love that idea about branding, digital marketing, and getting yourself known. And I think, yeah, you've done an amazing job with that. And tell us a little bit, how did you balance all of that? Because now you're running a business, you're all over the place, you're on different news outlets, sharing content, talking about your business, talking about current affairs, things that are happening. So But now you still have to do the work. I know at some point you started hiring other lawyers to help you. And I think that is another transition. Always, as entrepreneurs, we always find it very reluctant to hire other people, to start teaching others what we know. So let's start from there. How did you make that transition to your first hire? And now you've grown your team to 10. So how was that transition like?
Well, what happened was when I first opened the firm, I found that I was spending so much time on things that I shouldn't be. So I was spending hours doing legal research. And as a fourth year, that's something like an articling student or a first year should do. And so, and then I couldn't bill all that work because it's something that you really shouldn't do. It should be delegated to someone else. And so I remember the law firm that I shared space with, I was saying like I'm working 16 hours a day and I'm spending a lot of time on useless things. And the partner said to me, the one who mentioned the life insurance, said, Tanya,
Mhm.
you need to hire more people. And I'm like, I'm afraid. Like, yes, I opened the firm and 99% of the clients followed me, but who knows where I'll be 2 years from now? Who knows if I'll have any work coming in? And he said, you have to take the chance. And I was like, but I'm afraid. And he's like, I understand you're afraid, but you have to just take the chance. And worst case
Mhm.
scenario, Tanya, you might have to lay off somebody. You might have to hire them on contract and not renew their contract, but you can't operate at this pace for the next 30 years. So I said, okay, fine. And then I actually was speaking to a colleague at a lunch about being swamped. And she said, Tanya, I know somebody, she articled at the firm. She wasn't hired back and she's just sitting home and she needs a job. She needs something on her resume so she can find a job. She'll help you. She'll work for free. And I thought, okay. So she started to help me and I realized how important it was to have that help. So she moved on within a year or so to an insurance firm, and I mentor her. I attended her wedding.
Mhm.
She sent work to me from that insurance firm, and I was just like, and I realized the importance of continuing to build relationships. And then I also realized, Tanya, it takes a while for people to get trained, right? So if you're going to grow, you have to kind of hire ahead of the growth curve so that person's properly prepared when you really need them. So now we hire like one articling student a year. We hire at least 1 to 2 paralegals. We always are, but it takes such a long time because right now we're going through the process of hiring an articling student for
Mhm.
2021, 2022, right? So you hire someone around now to start next year,
Oh, okay.
in about a year. And so it just takes, and there's a lot that can happen between now and then, but at least you put yourself in a position that if you need the help, you have it. So I think that's important, and it's always important to delegate. One other thing I recommend people do if they can, try and spend time on the business instead of in the business. That was a mistake that I was making. I was spending a lot of time preparing for court, the Court of Appeal, cross examinations, discoveries, and I wasn't spending enough time on the business until I got into that program, VV Grow.
That's right.
And that forces you have assignments to hand in every week, and you have like, you watch these classes on TV, and it made me realize the importance of allocating time to work on the business instead of in the business. And so that's what I try to do now, 1 day a week, just to not work on any billable work, but just work on the business instead of in the business. Look at the financials every quarter. Look at what we're spending. Look where we can cut back. Look where look at our firm like a report card. Just like when growing up, many of us had parent teacher interviews and report cards, which came out that said how we were doing our progress. So then, if we weren't doing that well, we had time to change, to perform better. That's how you kind of have to do with the business. You have to consider perhaps having a report card, and you take time and you look at it and you say, what can I do to perform better? What can I do to be better? And there's a lot of publications out there. Like I subscribe to Harvard Business Review. It's an excellent publication.
That's right.
It comes out like, I think every 2 months or so. It has articles, wonderful articles. Even like you can access the backlog of articles, to learn more about business, how to improve in business. So I think it's just really taking that time to focus on the business, and also spend time on the little things, what you may see as little things that makes a big difference in the end. One of the biggest mistakes that I see business owners see, because I'm a litigator, so I deal with the disputes, they
Mhm.
don't have documentation. They hire people on a handshake. and that might be their friend. Then you're dealing with termination. People don't realize the Employment Standards Act that says you're supposed to pay somebody 1 week of pay in
That's
lieu
right.
of notice is not actually upheld in courts. The courts have made up their own law called the common law, where they give someone roughly 1 week, 1 month of pay per year that they work there. So you might think the employee's left, worked with me for 3 years, so I have to give them 3 weeks of pay, but the courts might say it's 3 months. And so, and then people then say to me, well, this employee was problematic. I say, okay, where's your documentation? Oh, I didn't
That's right.
document anything. So it's the good thing is if you spend time on your business instead of in your business, if you have any problems, that's the time where you should document it, file it away, have backups, and think of how to improve and how to deal with situations if they don't work out properly. So those are just some things that I think you can be done, or some mistakes that I see. Some people are just very good at their craft, and as an entrepreneur, you don't really have the money to work like I could. I didn't have the money, and to work just on practicing law and then have like an office manager, right? So you wear more than one hat, but you have to
That's
give
right.
time. You have to give yourself time to deliver if you're wearing that second hat, right? You can't just do that when it's convenient for you. So it's important to just allocate time. And I also allocate thinking time too. So now I allocate 1 to 2 business days a week for thinking. So it's really we're proofreading. I have almost 10 people here, and I have the supervisor work and do mine. And my litigation is very complex. So it's thinking time. It's proofreading work. Sometimes thinking about strategy, thinking about how to do things. It's just time. No meetings, no appointments, just time to think. And the thing is, our world is so fast paced. We kind of live in an instant gratification world. We don't give ourselves time to think. And some of the most brilliant inventions come up because people have thought of them, right? And so you can't do things that are brilliant or make a change if you don't give yourself to reflect and think.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's one thing we neglect. And I believe that's something we mentioned last week as well. Giving yourself time to think. And I like the fact that you covered. It looks like a lot of time, 1 to 2 days a week to think. That's a lot of time, and difficult for most people to do. So one of the ways we've broken down business is we take people through, like 3 different stages. So the first stage is growing from zero to your first $100,000 in sales. Then hopefully the next stage is crossing to getting to $500,000 in sales. Then the next stage is getting to $1 million. Um, so when you started, tell us a little bit about your journey to your first $100,000. I don't know. It's up to you. I don't know how much you're willing to share. How quickly were you able to get there? And more importantly, what did you have to change in yourself to get to that $100,000 in revenue?
Hmm. Well, I think the first 100,000, I registered the business initially as a sole proprietorship.
Yeah,
Um, and then the accountant I had at the time said that it's not economical for you to be registered as a sole proprietorship anymore. You should be registered as a corporation, and you're paid as an employee. It's a tax savings to you. So
okay,
that's one thing I had to change that I didn't even think about. I knew about the differences, but
yeah,
I wasn't confident when I started that I should be incorporated. Um, I don't know. It's so long ago. So when I opened like 10 years ago. So I don't. I think I had to think more as a business person. Once you cross a certain line, like when I first opened, I was just worried about doing my work, billing once a
mhm,
month, just get it done. And then you get to a point where you have to say, okay, is this efficient? Should we be spending this much on this type of service? Like you get to step away and really evaluate yourself as a report card, but you have to get the grades first, right? So
that's right.
when you start
That's
when
right.
you start, you don't have your grades yet. So once you get the grades, and you can look at it and say, okay, what can I do to perform better? And also, where do I want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Do I want to have a very big company that I can step away from and it just continue to run itself and be its asset? Because if that's what you want, then you have to start working towards that now, because it takes time
That's
and you
right.
have to put certain things in place. So one thing I really had to do in the last 4 years or so is develop more systems. and document it. So I ordered a manual from the American Bar Association, a law office manual, and I think it was starting around 4 years ago. We amended the chapters to suit our firm, and every year we amend the manual and go through it. And when we're amending it, I also look at what am I doing here that someone else can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because now we have a full-time billings clerk, we have a bookkeeper, we have Celia, who's your partner, our accountant. What like certain things, do I really need to do this anymore, or is that something that someone else can do? And to create efficiency. So I think when you start off, you're just more about survival. You're taking every file in if you can. Then you get to a point where you think, okay, what files should I not take in because it's just not profitable? What clients should I not take in because those 10% of clients will give you the 90% of headache, right?
That's right.
So it's like really evaluating and saying, okay, should I take this client in? Should I take this file in? Because you have a little bit more confidence that the work's coming in anyway, so you can turn something away that it doesn't make sense. But even if the work doesn't come in, you can spend your time doing something that's more effective than working on a file for a client that will not pay, or a problematic client that calls, every 5 seconds and wants an answer right away and wants you to drop everything right away. So I think that's you kind of change. And that's how we even got to the Fortune 500 companies, because I was against some of them on in matters. And I asked, like, sometimes you're sitting around the courtroom and you're chatting with the lawyers, and I asked, how did you get this file? And they said, oh, I went to the same private school as the person who's in-house with that bank. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't attend private school, but doesn't mean that I should be punished, right? I should have that opportunity. And then you get to a point in a confidence level where you can say to a bank, to a Fortune 500, I'd like to work for you. I like to represent you. Can you let me know if there's a process in place that I can apply to be given the opportunity to represent you? So you go from like starting off in survival mode, and then you kind of get to a point where you're like looking at efficiency and growth, and how can I grow, and how could we do more, and how can we be more? And also looking at, at these 5 things that I do I really need to do them, or is that something my assistant can do or a junior lawyer can do? Does it make sense for me to spend time on this because I can spend it on something else?
That's right. That's right. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know we're running out of time, so I just want to quickly throw in 2 quick questions here. So tell me the role that your parents played in your success or in your career as a whole. I know that's always an important question I like to ask. So why don't you share a little bit about the role your parents played?
My parents are just amazing people, very amazing. And having a 19-month son now, I realize how much like they've done. Like it's really time consuming being a parent, and I'm not the primary caregiver, so my husband is. But what my parents did, it didn't start when I was an adult, it started when I was a kid. So what my parents did is, my father wanted us to think outside the box. So my father let us learn a sport that wasn't stereotypical, and my sport was skating. He taught me how to skate when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. I don't know how a Jamaican man who doesn't know how to skate teaches someone how to skate, but he did. And so that instilled in me, like, I can do whatever I want. It's not, I have to play basketball. I actually learned basketball on my own later on when I was like in grade 8, because I wanted to learn. I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and my dad's like, you can go ahead and teach yourself. But he taught me skating, and then he taught me how to play tennis. And my father wanted me to learn a different language, to learn how to use my mind in a different way. So my babysitter was Italian. And so my parents realized I had a great proficiency in Italian. So I went to a school that had an Italian curriculum. So I attended an Italian curriculum type of school until I was in grade 8. And it really taught you about being the minority. So what else they did instilled in me is confidence. So when I received a paper back and say it was a C, my parents would sit down with me at the kitchen table and say, okay, did you do something wrong, or did they like, was there a mistake on their part? And sometimes I was wrong, and so we would look at how I would correct in the future. But if I realized I was graded unfairly, I would go back to the teacher and say, listen, you gave me the C, you marked this wrong, but I don't actually think it's wrong. Can you explain to me? And some of the teachers would realize, oh, I was wrong and they changed the grade. Sometimes they wouldn't, but that instilled some confidence and it gave me the right to challenge things. And as a litigator, when you're dealing with court or you're in, especially in the court of appeal with three judges, you have to be able to be confident about challenging. Because if you don't believe in your case, no one's going to believe in you,
That's right.
right? And not even university. I remember doing that for computer science, one of my computer science classes, getting all my old quizzes together, going through them, and realize, oh my gosh, I'm going into this exam with a C, but it really should be an A. And then I went to the professor and we went through all the quizzes and she actually increased my grade because she realized like her TAs were looking for specific words and I had the same word, but it just wasn't that specific word, but it meant the same thing. So my grade went up. So that was very helpful. My parents instilled that in me. Even with the bulletin board, um, when I was in elementary school, if you received an A, they would usually put your paper on this board thing, right? And at the Italian school, many times they didn't have space for me my paper, right? And so my parents would go to the school and they attended parent teacher interviews. They created their own. They didn't wait for parent teacher interviews, right? If there was a problem, we want to see you now, right? So they would go to the school and say, make room for Tanya's paper. Like the last few papers were A's. You said he didn't have room. This is important for the development of a child to have confidence and and reap the rewards. Put the paper up. So it was
Yes.
really nice to see that because then it just came a natural thing for me. Like if I didn't agree with what like my side in a courtroom, I object. I get up and I say, Your Honor, I'd like to object. Right.
That's
Last
right.
year, last year and the year before, when I was pregnant, I was in cross examinations, and someone said to me in cross examinations, a male lawyer, "You're only acting this way because of your condition." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Okay, because you have a headache." I said, "No, you said that because I'm pregnant, and that's not acceptable." And I knew that
Mhm.
I had the confidence to say to somebody who is a completely different demographic than me, grew up in a completely different world than me, that is not acceptable because of what my parents instilled in me. Or even like going on television and being interviewed by someone like Ben Mulrooney, who's the son of the prime minister.
Mhm.
And I remember saying to my husband, my gosh, I didn't think this would ever happen. And he said, Tanya, if you didn't deserve to be there, you wouldn't be.
That's
So
right. That's right.
don't ever question yourself. If CBC, CTV, City News, and CP24 didn't
Mhm.
think that you were competent and capable, you wouldn't be there. So don't
That's
ever
right.
doubt yourself. And so it's a very important to believe in yourself because there are going to be times when people don't believe in you. They're going to look at you and say, "Who do you think you are?" You know, your parents didn't go to university. Your parents aren't lawyers. Who do you think you are? And you can say, I know I am Tanya Walker. I know that I worked my butt off and I know I deserve to be here. And I am here. I'm at the table. And that's what even made me run for Bencher, the board director with the Law Society of
That's right.
Ontario. I was the first Black woman voted in a 223-year history
Hmm.
because you're only voted in by lawyers. Many of us are voted in by lawyers. There's some that are appointed, and it's very difficult because you need name recognition. And when my mentor, who's an older white male, John Campion, said to me, "You should run," I was like, "You're nuts, no way." And then I looked into it and I thought, you know what? They need a voice. They need my voice. They need to hear about my experiences because people should not be treated that way. You know, God forbid our little boy decides to grow up and become a lawyer and have to deal with the stuff that I had to deal with. It's not fair. And so I need to do my parts. And by the time I leave this profession, I can say I've done something to make it a more equal playing field. And,
Mhm.
you know, running in 2016 was one thing. You know, running again last year when I was 9 months pregnant and I felt like I was waddling around to different meetings to get endorsed by big Bay Street firms was another. And I was reelected last year. But again, it
Wow.
has to do with it's all attributed to my parents, where they said to me, from the very beginning, we believe in you. We believe that you're bright. We believe that you deserve to own your own business. You be a amazing business owner, and there's nothing stopping you but you. And my father always says to me, we talk every day. If you fail, Tanya, you failed yourself. No one else can. You can't say anybody else failed you. You have failed yourself. And so having those incredible parents who probably made so many sacrifices that I don't even know about
Mhm.
to help my sister and I get to these levels, I am very grateful.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry, I
God
went
for
over. I
your
went on a tangent.
thank God for your parents. No, this is really, really good. I can't wait to meet them one day and give them a big, big hug. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And it really shows. It shows in your confidence. It shows in the hard work that you've put in all these years building your business to this level. One final question.
Mhm.
Recently, you celebrated 10 years in business. I think that is amazing.
Thank you.
9 out of 10 businesses fail before they get to this point. And so 10 years running business uh, and running a successful business that has seen growth and exposure year after year, I think that is even more amazing. So final question, how have you transformed in 10 years? If you look back, 10 years ago, you started a business, and this is where you are today, 10 years after that. So, what has the transformation been like for you in terms of the person that you've come to be? I know you're married, you have a son right now, son, right? Just one son that you have right now, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I know you have a son that is a big transformation on its own. Um, in terms of business, how have you transformed in 10 years getting to this point?
I think my driving force has changed a little bit. And so my driving force was when I opened was I can't take this anymore. I'm being treated not well because of how I look, my gender, my class. And now it's more of just like I was a little girl and I saw Claire Huxtable and I thought I want to be her. I have a duty to do something in this profession to encourage others who look like me to enter into it.
Hmm.
It's gone beyond, you didn't treat me well at my firm. It's more of making a fundamental difference. So then if a little kid sees me on CTV, they can say, you know what, that's what I want to do. I didn't even think that's something I could do, but I want to
Hmm.
do it. So it's bigger than just me.
That's
And
right.
you could make such an impact on the world, or even just on one person, if you really think of it that way. Like I met Michelle Obama a few years ago, and I couldn't believe just meeting someone for 5 minutes had a profound effect on me. And she's just a person just like me, right? And
That's
it
right.
was just, I was just in awe for the next week or so. I didn't even want to bathe because she hugged one side of me, and I was like, I want to keep the Michelle germs on me. And I'm not at that level at all, but it did make me appreciate that you can just have a profound impact on someone's life. And you really should do something by the time you leave your profession to impact the lives of others. Not just people who look like you, but people who don't look like you, who think that people
That's right.
that look like you shouldn't be where you are, just to
Mm.
demonstrate to them that people like you should be in the same place as them. So it's fundamental. That's what drives me. It was very hard to run for Bencher again. It was very hard after I was elected. I went back to work in 5 weeks, sitting in many meetings and working so hard. Recently, I think last month I probably worked 70 to 80 hours a week. But what drives me is that it just, you just make a difference for so many people.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's what we're trying to do in our own little way here, just to share as much information as we can. So if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Walker Law is, we have all the social media accounts like Walker Law, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and also
Okay.
you can get in touch with me at Tanya, Tanya, at TC Walker Lawyers with an S.com. So Tanya, Tanya, at TC Walker Lawyers with an S.com.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Tanya, for making the time for this. This was really, really good. It was awesome for you to share your story and to talk about some of the things you've done in the last 10 years running your firm. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken, for having me. Thanks. Have a great
Okay,
day.
excellent. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.